there, thanks for tuning in. I'm Sally. One of the things that I do is I coach people on health and wellness and, you know, good nutritional habits and so forth, which by the way are very different from what most of the mainstream media and the food industry are telling you. That's a whole different story. We can talk about that at length. This is just a short intro to some videos that I actually shot previously in my Sticks and Bricks kitchen. But it's also recipes that I would make in my RV all the time anyway and do. So I thought rather than having to reshoot those videos, I'd kind of repurpose them here for you so that you can see what kinds of things you can do. The two primary instruments that I use when I'm cooking in my RV, I use my Instant Pot a lot and I use my air fryer a lot. I love both of those things and for a couple of reasons. Neither one of them heats up my RV kitchen, and you know, summers are getting warmer, pretty much no matter where you are, and heating up the kitchen on a warm summer day, just not my favorite thing to do. Now, I'm fortunate, I have a fair amount of solar and I've got lithium batteries, so I can live off grid pretty much continuously without any issues. And one of the ways that I kind of manage my power consumption is I have a tendency to do most of my more intensive electric type cooking earlier in the day, so that I've got pretty much all day for my solar to be able to catch my batteries back up if I've depleted them more than I would otherwise have done. So that system works really well. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this video. Please do check it out. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Hey, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please give me a thumbs up. Okay guys, Sally Lawrence here, and here's what's cooking today. We've got snow, we've got hail, we've got wind, we've got cold. So I thought it would be a good day for soup. And what I'm going to do is work on making a squash soup, well, squash-based soup. I'm going to have to do some supplementing because I don't have a whole lot of squash here, so it's going to make, really this is probably going to be like one serving, but that's okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is cook the squash in the Instant Pot, and that's super simple. In order to do that, all I'm going to do is cut it in half and put a little sea salt on it. I've got half a cup of water in the bottom of the Instant Pot already, and then we're just going to put the squash in and we'll be ready to go. I'm just going to give it a rinse off because it came out of my neighbor's garden and, you know, probably should be washed. So we'll do that. And just dry that off a little bit so it doesn't slip on the cutting board. And then yeah, all we're going to do is cut it in half and put it in and we'll be good to go. Of course, cutting it in half is always the hard part. Sweet potatoes washed, good sized one there. I'm going to cut this in half. Generally when you're cooking sweet potatoes, you always want to pierce them or cut them in some way so that the steam can escape. And so I'm going to just set these in the Instant Pot sitting up so that the flesh side is up. And I'm going to put a little sprinkle of salt all over everything. We're using Himalayan pink rock salt, of course. All those extra nice trace minerals for us. So just a little sprinkle of salt on there. Put the lid on. And then we're going to put this on pressure. And I'm already set for 4 minutes, so we're good to go. Okay, so the Instant Pot is finished. The pressure's been released. And we're going to see if we're actually done or not. I'm going to stick a fork in the sweet potato and the squash. Oh, actually, yeah, I can tell. Sweet potato's not quite done, but that's fine. I can peel that. And while you were gone, I cut up some onion, one whole onion, and about four stalks of celery and 2 carrots. And then we're going to season this up with some salt, a little allspice, some curry, and a little bit of ground cumin. I think that's going to make it taste really delicious. So I'm looking forward to this. As I do with so many things, I'm really just winging it, so who knows what we're going to wind up with. It will be a surprise. So getting out the sweet potatoes. And getting out the squashes. I'm actually dumping the juice from the squash back in there. Whoa, that's hot. Because, and that's very well done, because I can use that in sauteing the onions. Whew. I don't really recommend handling cooked hot vegetables just with your fingers. Maybe not the wisest thing. Okay, we're going to get the rack out of here. And I've got a little piece of shell there that I don't want in. Try that with a spoon. Yeah, okay, good. So there we go. And then we're going to go ahead and add in the onions and get them started cooking. And we'll give that just a couple of minutes, and then we'll put the carrots and the celery in as well. So I'm going to switch right now from keep warm, which is what happens after the cooking cycle finishes, into the saute mode. So first you have to turn the Instant Pot off to do that. You can't go directly from one to the other. So I'm going to hit cancel and then saute. Grab a spoon. Now let's see how hard it's going to be to get the flesh out of these squashes. And I think I'd best get a bowl. I'm going to try not to burn myself much. We'll see how that works. And then I haven't decided what I want to do yet about cooking liquid, if I'm just going to use water or if I want to use chicken stock. So I'm still thinking about that for a few minutes. And once I decide, feel free to let me know in the comments below if you think I should have gone the other way. Oh yeah, that's nicely done. So keep this in mind when you want to be able to do winter squash really fast. I mean, this is really fast. And it's definitely cooked all the way through. I think the sweet potato could have gone slightly longer, I think. But I think that'll be okay as well. And then all I'm doing is just scooping this out. Trying to keep the shell from going in there. Now, of course, if I were willing to wait a little bit longer to do this, I probably wouldn't be burning my fingers and hands. But that's okay. As I said, this entire soup is a bit of an experiment. And we can hear the onions getting along there. I'm actually going to let the onions absorb pretty much all of this liquid. And because right now there's no fat in here at all, and I do want some, I'll put some coconut oil in as I add the other vegetables, the carrots and the celery. So no idea how this is going to turn out for sure, but I think it'll be interesting. And pretty much I've never made anything that's been inedible. Some things I just don't necessarily want to repeat. But part of the point I want you guys to get from this is that experimenting with food is really good. It's good for you to try lots of different things. And this is something I've never tried before. Just like the greens that I'm going to use with this soup are greens that I've never used before. So we'll just see how the whole thing goes. Yeah, there's another piece of shell that snuck in. And I need to remember to look up and see if it's okay to put cooked shells like this in my compost, or not. If they didn't have any grease or, no oil or anything was used in cooking them, so I think it's okay, but I don't want to take a chance either. Alright, so let's see if I'm going to be able to just scoop this out. Nope, not quite. I think I'm going to have to peel this guy, but that won't be hard. And our onions are burbling along nicely. We're actually kind of doing this one in real time today, and usually I don't do that. Usually I just turn the camera on and off in between steps. But I also want you to get an idea of just how much time is really involved in doing something like this. Now, as I say, especially if you're feeding a family, normally I'd be doing a much larger quantity, and then I'd be having a bunch of leftovers. But the other thing to think about is this really is not a whole lot of time that's taken up with actively working on preparing food. And when you do it enough so that you've got leftovers, then you're really maximizing your cooking time so that you can have more variety in your life. And speaking of variety, of course, if you're a Wild Fit fan, as I am, you'll recognize immediately that this is not an appropriate choice for a Wild Fit spring meal, but you'd be fine in late summer, fall, absolutely fine that way. And again, part of what I'm looking for is variety, so that's what we're working on here. Alright, so there's half a sweet potato. And then I'm just going to kind of rough chop that up into slightly smaller pieces. Doesn't have to be perfect. And normally I would, I eat my sweet potatoes with the skin on all the time because really I quite like them. But I'm afraid that I won't be able to get them really incorporated well when I go to immersion blend the soup together, so we'll peel them. And it sounds like, yep, we're just about ready to put a little coconut oil in there and move on to adding in the carrots and celery. And of course, this is the first time that I've actually shown you the whole view of the kitchen while we've been doing this, so I'm interested if you like seeing this view better than just seeing the food view. Let me know in the comments down below. So we're going to just melt that down there real quick. Onions are looking good. And then we're going to add in our carrots and celery. And we'll let that go for just a couple more minutes. Okay, we're going to give this about 2 or 3 minutes for those vegetables to get soft, and then we'll get everything combined and put the lid back on. Okay, so we got a couple of different things going on here. Let's start by taking a look inside the Instant Pot. And you can see we've got a great big frozen block of bone broth right there. We've got our carrots, celery, and onions are all ready. And over here, I've got some chicken broth that I heated up because I wanted to have some liquid in here. I didn't want it just to be all frozen. So we'll dump that in. And let's take a look at our seasonings. So I've got about a tablespoon of curry powder here. About, I'm going to say about 1/3 of a teaspoon of cumin powder, about a teaspoon of salt, about a third of a teaspoon of black pepper, and maybe an 1/8 or about a 1/4 of a teaspoon of allspice. So we're going to go ahead and dump all of that in as well. I love the dump process. And then here we've got our squash that we've already pulled out of its shells, and the sweet potato we cut up. So we're going to go ahead and add that in, and then we'll get the lid on this bad boy, and I'm going to set it for pressure cook, and we're going to go up to about 8 minutes just to make sure that I get the get everything incorporated. So there we go. Let's dump the squash in and keep going. Okay. Try and get all of that goodness out of there. Give it a quick stir. And then we'll go ahead and get the lid on and see what we wind up with. Lid. Alrighty, so stay tuned. We'll see what it looks like when we unveil it. Let's take a look inside and see what we've got here. I'm just going to use a fork to make sure that the vegetables, really are cooked all the way, and they are, so that's good. We can just take a look inside the pot here. Yeah, so this is what we have. It's going to be a beautiful orangey color when we put the immersion blender in and blend it all up. So let's go ahead and do that. And of course, whenever you're doing this with a hot soup like this, you need to be really careful not to have splashback. So don't lift the blender up while you're doing it. Once that's all blended up is do a little taste test and see if we need to adjust for seasonings. You can see that's nice and thick and creamy looking, and there's no cream in there. Oh, that's yummy. I'm getting just a hint of everything. I've got just a little bit of the allspice, a little bit of the cumin, curry's coming through. I think that's perfect as is. If you're new to the idea of greens that come out of a garden instead of the ones that came triple washed from the store, you might not be familiar with how to really get them ready to eat because they've got dirt and potentially a few little bugs and stuff like that on them. So I stripped them off their stalks, and I already soaked them twice in 2 water baths. And then for this third bath, I've added about 1/3 to 1/2 cup of white vinegar. And you can just see the salt right here. About 2 tablespoons of, I'm using kosher flake salt just because I have it around. And I don't need to use Himalayan pink rock salt because this is just going to get rinsed off anyway. All we're doing is getting these nice and clean. And you can see this water's not looking too bad. We're going to let these soak for about 10 more minutes. And then we'll drain them off, rinse them again, and then I'll chop them up so they can go into the soup. Or whatever else you wanted to be using greens for. The salt helps any little bugs to drop off and float down into the water instead of staying attached to my greens. So I'll show you the finished product in just a little bit. Last step in this process is we're going to put all of the greens in. So I washed them, drained them, sliced them up. Didn't do a great job of that apparently, but that's okay. They'll be fine. And as you can see, they look like quite a lot right now, but greens wilt down pretty easily. So I'm just going to give that a stir. We're going to put the lid back on, and we're going to let it sit on the keep warm function for, another 5-10 minutes or so. And that will let the greens all kind of wilt. Actually, I think 5 minutes will be plenty. So we'll see what it looks like when we cook it up. All right, I want to thank you so much for hanging out with me today. It's beautiful and it smells awesome. I had a great time hanging out in my comfy sweats, making some comfort food, and post in the comments down below. Let me know what you think. Subscribe if you haven't already, and leave a comment down below. what you think. If you've tried the recipe, if you've got some ideas about how to make it different or better, that would be awesome. Look forward to seeing you next time.